Well, welcome to Hireside Chats, where Nesco Nation comes together to share ideas, be entertained, discuss topics, and even learn something fun while acting as a team. So today we're going to be discussing the importance of community involvement and how you can stay connected even with social distancing measures in place. Our guest today is Ray Fete. Yes, we are related. Yes, it is pronounced Fate. He is the executive director for Hammer and Nails, and a nonprofit foundation located in Canton, Ohio. He's been in the industry for over 30 plus years now, so he knows a little bit about community involvement and staying connected. Thank you for joining me. Tell me a little bit more about what Hammer and Nails is all about.
We're a very small nonprofit located in Canton, but we service all of Stark County. We help disadvantaged individuals maintain and repair their homes. And we also have a division that does wheelchair ramps for people in need. It's all paid for by donor dollars. So far, we haven't taken any government money, although we may with all this stimulus money in the mix now. So we only have 4 staff, and 3 of us are part-time, including me, the executive director. So we depend heavily on volunteers.
That's great. So let's start with a simple question. Why should people get involved with their communities?
Well, first of all, some jobs are jobs. You know, you go to work every day, you put your 8 hours in, 9 hours, 10 hours, and you go home and you're like, oh, my job. This is a chance to get involved in something you love. So you kind of get to pick where you want to put your energy. And 2, you live in the community. If there's anything you could do to help improve the community as a volunteer, do it.
Definitely. And what would you say, what are some different types of ways that people can get involved?
Well, for instance, my place is very specific. We have home improvement. So if you have some construction skills, you don't have to be, Norm Abrams on this old house, but if you have some moderate construction skills or painting skills, home repair, you can help that way. But also we have, on the other side of that, we have the support we need in the office. We do a lot of correspondence, we do a lot of fundraising, we do special events. So if you're interested in the area of helping us put on a special event. So there's multiple ways, even though we only have a pretty narrow focus, there are more than one way, one area to get involved through. So.
What about other types of organizations? In your experience in communities, what types of different places are there that you might not even think about that you can get involved with?
Well, that's the thing, everybody thinks of the big places, Habitat for Humanity, Red Cross, the Heart Association. I've been part of the Heart Association board in the past, and they're a great charity. But I think what you want to do is try to seek out the local stuff. And for example, in Canton, Ohio, one of the big local opportunities is the Hall of Fame festivities.
Right.
I was a volunteer in charge of the pooper scoopers behind the horse-drawn units for many years with the parade, many years.
What a glamorous job.
Yeah, well, you know what? I had people just waiting in line to be one of those clowns that got to clean up after everything. So you think, well, and that's a big national event. Not every town has a big national event, but for years Akron had the soapbox derby. They may still, for all I know. And each little town has like Alliance has the Carnation Festival, and Canal Fulton has Canal Days. So, I think it's kind of cool to look to something very local initially, and because it has such an immediate impact on your community.
Right, and 2, you think about, there are different ways to help people too, right? I mean, I found out just through my own volunteering that there are shelters for homeless youth that I didn't know about, because again, you hear about the big ones, but you don't hear about the smaller ways that people can get involved. There's drop-in centers that these kids can go to print out job resumes, do applications, get food, get clothes. And there's just so many different things that, you might not have even thought about. So how can people find these organizations if they're so hidden sometimes?
Well, like most towns, like in a Canton area, our United Way has a phone number, just 211, and you dial 211 for information. In fact, many years ago, I used to run the United Way's Voluntary Action Center. They don't have that anymore, unfortunately, but some do, some still do. And what you do is you call in and they take a little resume, kind of look at you, and then they kind of match you to the charities in your local town that you might be a good fit for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about getting financially involved? Say that, somebody's interested, maybe they want to give back, but they don't have the time, or they're worried now with COVID. How does, and a lot of people, I think, worry about making sure that their money is going to the right place. What advice do you have for people who are looking to help that way?
Well, my advice is to give everything you have to hammer and nails. I do think, well, I tell people this, and I'm not joking about this. I tell people that, if you make a $10,000 contribution to a large nonprofit, say a university, that's meaningful and that's helpful, but you don't really stand out a whole lot. But if you give $10,000 to a small nonprofit like mine, which has a $250,000 year annual budget, you're like a hero. We'll put your picture on the wall and bow as we go by every day. So, it depends what kind of impact you want to make. If you want to be part of like Notre Dame University and say you're a Notre Dame donor, so you get the newsletter and a chance at football tickets, then it's a good cause. But if you want to be impactful more so, again, find those. And I'm not saying pick a charity that's been in business for 3 weeks. We've been around for 20 years. You can find out the reputation of places pretty easily. You can go online and look at 990s for every nonprofit. They have to file one. You can see what the executive director is making. If that's not to your liking, because some of these nonprofits, they get raked over the coals pretty good because the executive director is making millions of dollars. I don't. So, I mean, really, do you want to see your money go to mission, or do you want to see your money go to payroll? So those things are worth considering. And
there's also another certification, right? It's 501c3, is that correct? That they can also look for?
Yeah, they should be a 501c3, which is nonprofit. And you got to watch, they're supposed to follow strict rules about lobbying. So they're not supposed to lobby for anything, one side of an issue or another. And so they're supposed to stay neutral, which is a good thing. They can be a religious organization, but they can't make religion a prerequisite of acquiring services.
Okay. Gotcha. So what about your history and your experience? You've been involved for so long. What's the most rewarding part for you working with so many different organizations?
Well, I worked at the homeless shelter, and it wasn't by choice. I lost a job because of a nonprofit turning to a for-profit, so fundraisers were no longer needed. So I go to this new job, and they say, well, you're going to be out on our family living center because that's where we have office space. And that's a homeless shelter for families. And I'm on the second floor, and the shelter's on the third floor. All I hear are little kids running around all day. And I'm like, this is drives me crazy. But then
now everybody's dealing with that, working from home.
That's true. So I'd be on the second floor, and as the kids would come in from school, they'd peek onto the second floor, which they weren't supposed to, and they'd see me, and they'd come down, and then we started talking, and I'd help them print some things out for their office, their rooms rather, and it was interesting because they look forward to seeing me every day, and I look forward to seeing them every day, and all of a sudden I'm this big advocate for homeless families. I had a false impression of what they were about and what they were like, and I'm so glad I had that opportunity to learn really what homeless families are like. So that's in my past. I left that organization 3 years ago, but very meaningful for me.
That's great. So what about COVID-19? Obviously, that's impacted what volunteers can do or get involved in. How can they stay connected with their community, and what types of opportunities exist now?
Well, if you look at most local newspapers, they'll have listings of volunteer opportunities. And the agencies I don't put any in there, ads in there, but the agencies that really want some people will do that. And you can look through that. Another way to get involved is, not everybody's in a church community, but through your church community. We have many churches that bring down their youth group or their adult seniors or adult singles to help us do a whole house project someday. So what they'll do is they'll make the connection with the charity.
Okay. There's another website I've heard of and I've used previously called volunteermatch.org. That's
Okay.
also a good option. They can put out profiles. It's just like a job board,
Yeah.
but for places looking for volunteers. So that's another cool option. And I think it gives everyone a chance to be creative, right? Think about, maybe we can't go into a children's hospital or to a homeless shelter, but maybe you could do an activity through Zoom, like we're talking right now. Lead a craft with some of the kids. I mean, I think that there's ways for people to really think creatively about how they can stay connected with their community right now.
There are absolutely ways. Now, because of the Corona situation, they have to back off on some of that. Like even Goodwill's not taking donations right now. But that's going to go away. We're either all going to die or that's going to go away. So in any case, those of us who are still here will have plenty of volunteer opportunities.
And food banks right now are really in need of monetary donations, food donations. I mean, they're hurting.
Yeah, I have a friend that used to work with me at Community Services, and she works at the food bank, Akron Canton Regional Food Bank, and it's pretty steady all along. But you are correct; they have just hit a monumental challenge, and I think they're doing well. But people are so scared; they're over reacting, and they're taking probably advantage of food pantries to excess, which puts stress on the system. So everybody just relax, but they are valuable all the time, not just now. Yeah.
Exactly. And another option I think is getting involved in a board. So especially right now, if you can't go out and maybe, work on a construction site, maybe think about getting involved in a volunteer board. Like you mentioned, the Heart Association. I've been involved in a Cleveland volunteer board where I was working on public policy. I think that that's a really great solution too, because a lot of times they do phone calls and you don't do meetings in person a lot. So that could be a good inroads right now as well.
Yeah, if it's odd you'd mention that, because I had two board members, they're husband and wife. They picked up additional responsibilities at their current workplace, so they both resigned at the same time from my board. So I need board members. I need some private sector board members, and we meet once a month. We go out and do a project together once a year, and it's not just advisory. We want some real contributions when we do our special events. We have a golf outing. We might say, hey, go out and get two foursomes for us. We do a concert. It's called Geezers and Guitars, which is a nice little fundraiser for us. But it might be, hey, go out and sell 10 tickets to this. So there's some expectations if you're going to be on our board, but it's really pretty light duty when you think about it, but it's very meaningful as well.
I think I know who won that this past year.
Oh, yeah, he had a ringer.
That would be my dad for all of your viewers.
Your dad's the ultimate geezer with a guitar, and
True.
He did have a really good band in this year, and he had the only female of the evening that performed against the other three bands. And when she walked on stage, two of the guys from the prior band said, "We're toast." They didn't even have to hear her sing just to see her. They said, "That's it, we're done." But that was fun. So we do have some really fun events you can get involved in. It's not just a drudgery of painting a house. You can be involved in our concert series, and that's just a blast.
So you've done a lot specifically in fundraising, development, getting donations. If somebody's already involved with an organization and they're looking maybe for some tips on how to fundraise the best way, what are some of your best practices that you've gathered over the year? And you don't have to give us your secret sauce, but
I don't have what I found out more so than anything is people give to people, they don't give to causes. They may pretend they're giving to a cause, but they give to people. And having been in this fundraising and some volunteerism, when I worked for the county, it was my first real job starting in the mid 70s. I volunteered with the Hall of Fame. I volunteered with the Children's Museum, and so the Heart Association. And so I started to make connections then. And I just developed those connections over time. So in fact, right now, and my board is impressed by this, they shouldn't be, I can call any of the local foundation presidents or CEOs, and they will take my call. They won't necessarily give me money. They will not necessarily honor my ask, but they will at least take my call. And that's progress in the fundraising circles, you know? So you want to hitch yourself to some causes are controversial. You know, you're probably not helping yourself much. I started my professional fundraising career with a Catholic hospital. Well, there's not too much controversy in raising money for healthcare. So you can build on that pretty successfully. Now, if you want to be in the NRA, and I'm an NRA member, I'm not chastising the NRA about gun ownership, but that puts some people off. So you may go to a foundation that's directed by a person who does not believe in gun ownership, and that's going to make your task a little bit more difficult. And I always, you know, being grateful is important.
Definitely.
I think the more people you can expose to your mission, the more success you will have. Invite them in for a tour, take them to lunch. Nothing expensive. They don't want to think you're throwing money around, but you know, something simple and informative. And I think you just keep them in the loop and stay in touch with people, even if they don't respond to your appeal.
Okay. So what else should people know about involvement, volunteering, something that maybe that I didn't ask you that you think everyone should know?
Don't go into it. Don't go into fundraising. I would say don't go into fundraising. Well, you know how that's why I started fundraising was as a volunteer. You know, I worked on events with the Heart Association, and that's another reason to volunteer. By the way, you could take from your job. I was a regional planner. I was a land use and transportation planner, and I became a fundraiser at Kent State University because of my volunteer experience. And then I went from Kent State to Mercy to community service, where I did that exact same role, fundraising, to this day where I'm an exec director of small nonprofit, which basically means you do the fundraising. So it's a great way to change careers without taking a lot of risk. You volunteer for the Heart Association, think, oh, I'd like to work here. They have openings all the time, you know, but then you also could find out, oh man, this is okay for a weekend, but I don't think I could do this for a living. But it's a great way to explore other career opportunities and get something done. Yeah.
And there are some additional benefits too. I think obviously giving back to your community is hugely important, but maybe you want to connect with other people with similar interests that maybe you don't necessarily have the chance to do in your day-to-day routine. It's a great way to find just people that are passionate about the same things that you are, and build a secondary network essentially that you can really connect with.
Yeah, I have some very good friends that I've maintained over the 40 years or so that I met in that way. And I don't see them all the time. I don't see them often. But when I see them, we get together. It's like instant. We're right back where we were, you know, as far as our relationships. And it's like we volunteer, my wife and I, we volunteer to host exchange students. And do you want to talk about an experience? It's been on, and they know the whole family, you know, and
oh yeah, they're family. I mean, they're essentially cousins now, having been around when you had them. So
yeah, and you know, they come back to visit now and then. We go to Florida as a family. They come down there sometimes, and my daughter just went over for one of their weddings, and that's a big commitment. I mean, you got somebody living with you for 10 months. But boy, the rewards, again, higher the risk, the higher the reward, just like stock investments, you know. You take the risk to house a kid for 10 months, but the reward is just incredible.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, that was all I had. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I hope they're meaningful.
Oh, no, this was great. This is awesome content, and I really appreciate it. Nesco Nation, if you ever have any topic suggestions, people you want to hear from, please let us know. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, share everything. Share these episodes with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Not a problem.